Really, I think a journal is at its best when it can be a companion that is the best listener. You know, allowing yourself to sit down and without your phone and with no distractions, just unload every single thought you have. I think there's such a such a reluctance of people to get into journaling because they want to keep up, consistency, or they want to make it look nice, or they feel like, the bullet journal system is too hard to learn. But like, really what a journal should be is just a place for thoughts.
Sean, welcome to the podcast. Honored and humbled for you to be here. And particularly because when I looked at you and I looked at your story, you embodied two things to me, which is discipline and love. And whenever I find somebody who embodies those traits or seemingly appears to embody those traits, I want to bring them on the show and talk to them. So when I say discipline and love, what does that mean to you exactly as it relates to your own life?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I appreciate you reaching out and being persistent with me in the DMs. I'm very busy, so I'm glad we found time to sit down. Discipline and love. Yeah, I think I definitely align with those two. I would call them core tenets of kind of a lot of what I do. I would say discipline really, really resonates with me. I've been doing martial arts since I was 3. My mom is my instructor, and I've been fortunate enough to train under her for literally my entire life. I help her run her studio up here in the Pacific Northwest. We're in Portland, Oregon. The studio is in Camas, Washington, which is just across the river from Portland. So yeah, discipline is, that's at the center of pretty much any martial art, but for sure at the center of what we do. The art's called Subakdo. It's a Korean art, very similar to Taekwondo. We just kind of differ in the philosophies that we emphasize. So yeah, discipline is such a, I would say, I don't want to give myself too much credit, but I would say I'm in a fairly unique position to have done martial arts from the age of 3, and then to have my mom, be my instructor. And I think discipline has played a huge role in my life. It's obviously the backbone of the martial art that we do, but it's also the backbone of everything else I do. I grew up an only child, still am an only child, and I've filled my time with being creative as a kid and learning new skills and figuring out how I can just be as creative as possible. And with the backbone of discipline, I was able to, I would think, become highly proficient in the things that I do and the things that I love to do. So my mom's voice always echoes around in my head. She's always saying things like finish what you start, or how you practice becomes your habit. So she's still, I don't want to, she's still alive. Like she didn't, I feel like I said that like she's passed on, but she's still a huge part of my life. I've just always been very committed to things. I never half-ass something. I've full ass it, both cheeks, every time. So yeah, I don't know. Discipline is just, it's opened up so many doors, and I've reaped the benefits of discipline, and it gets very difficult sometimes, but I think it's through discipline that I can persist and endure. The love aspect is interesting. I haven't heard someone describe me or my content like that, so I appreciate the unique angle. And I do identify with that. I feel like it's so easy to point out all of the negatives in the world, and especially now more than ever. But if my videos and if my presence online, or if my words and my stories can add some point of positivity and shed some love onto someone who needs it, and maybe they don't even know that they need it, then my mission is accomplished. And no amount of views or followers or likes or shares can beat that feeling of making someone feel better through love. And I think love is one of those, like, one of the purest answers, I guess, to all the problems in the world. And that's obviously oversimplifying everything. But if we all loved more, I think we'd all be in a different, a more positive place.
What's at the heart of what you're trying to do with your videos?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think I'm still figuring that out myself. My videos, if you haven't seen them, my videos are very focused on digital mindfulness and helping you get off your phone and helping you build better habits to lead a more self-aware life. I place a lot of value and a lot of emphasis on self-awareness and self-growth, and you can rope my videos into a self-development kind of niche. But really, my videos are an expression of me, and albeit a performative version of me. The goal of my videos is to help you become more comfortable with who you are. I think we get such a limited amount of time here on Earth, and the number one thing everyone wants to know is about themselves, and it's how to wrestle with your own feelings and your own thoughts, and how you can balance things within your own head, and how you can have relationships not only with other people that are platonic and romantic, and also a relationship with yourself, and how to set goals, and how you can. It's just really, I'm really just on a journey of understanding myself, and I think through that I'm hopefully translating that into videos. And it starts, I suppose, with digital mindfulness, but it also extends to just ways that you can get more in touch with who you are at your core.
Mm. I feel that. I mean, it's incredible the amount of work that goes into the videos that you put out. And what I mean by that is I could tell that you've been video editing for a long, long time.
Thanks.
Like because it looks so simple, because it looks like so seamless, and it looks like, wow, there's a lot of thought that goes into each part of this. I remember when I was doing research for this, I found out that you had an iPad, and one specific part of it is you drawing, and the handwriting comes from your handwriting itself. And it's just like those little touches make the video so special, because who else is going to that level of thought in putting their work out there? So
I appreciate that, man.
well done.
Thank you. Yeah. Content creation it's something that's been like omnipresent for my whole life. Like I've been making videos since I could like pick up a camera, and I remember the internet pre-YouTube. And I'm 25, like I'm not like that old, I guess, in the scheme of how long content has been like a career and like a thing that people consume and make. And I've just always been obsessed with making things to share on the internet. I've lived a lot of different lives when it comes to internet personas, and this one that I'm on right now is fairly in depth, and it's by far the most fulfilling, and one that feels like the most me, I guess, if that makes sense.
It 100% does. And to give you some context on my own journey, when I was 13 years old, I wrote a time management blog. When I was 15 years old, I wrote a Knicks blog.
Wow.
And then I got away from the world of content creation, but then I had marketing, and then I came to the podcast. And it was only in the podcast where I feel the most me. But I've been creating online for probably a sum of, 6-7 years. And so it sounds like you've been on that journey as well. And it is interesting how more time passes, you become more yourself. And you find the things that you are putting out are also more yourself as well.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I think on the topic of like being yourself, like that's such it feels like something I'm constantly in flux with, especially when you start content creation with the goal of like making content around things that you like. Like for context, I started making videos with close-up magic when I was 8 years old. My dad showed me like a dad card trick. Every dad has to show you one card trick to get into the inner circle of dad, and he showed me this card trick, and I was immediately hooked. I was obsessed. It wasn't anything crazy. My dad's not a professional magician by any means. It was just a simple card trick. And it was kind of that catalyzed my career, really, because after he showed me that trick, he got me a magic book for my birthday. I read it cover to cover, and then it was my dad who helped me set up the home video camera, and we turned lamps on their sides to point at me for like fake studio lighting, and he helped me film these little tutorials of how to do card tricks when I was 8 or 9 years old, and he helped me set up my first YouTube channel at 9. And
did you feel any pressure on that point? Did you feel any pressure to perform because your dad set all those lights up?
I think probably. There's probably an element of wanting to be performative and professional, because just at the time when it was like 2008, 2009, like the word content creation wasn't even like a thing. It was just like people making videos on this site called YouTube. But at the time, I had been consuming content from the golden age of YouTube: Smosh, Niga Higa, Ray William Johnson, like all of these dinosaurs by now, but I was aware of like, okay, like you can be a persona on the internet. You can just have your own TV show basically. So I think, yeah, I was of course aware of that. Um, and being a magician is the nerdiest thing ever, but you're literally performing. You're like a clown, not in the sense that people laugh at you. That is a big part of it, especially when you're me. But you're performing entertainment. You're tricking people. Like it is very much a performance. So I think that was a big part of it. But I also was just so excited to. I mean, it was the feeling of having my own television show, and I knew that I was being filmed, and I knew that I was going to edit it. Editing was this concept that I wasn't really obviously familiar with at the age of 9, but like cutting video and adding titles and graphics and transitions and fades and music and stuff, that was all this new thing. And I realized quickly, like, this is exactly what movies are essentially, right? This is, I mean, editing and, whatever else in my simple 9-year-old brain, that's how I process it. So yeah, I think there was quite a bit of pressure to perform. I wasn't thinking a whole lot about authenticity because I didn't really have much of an identity at 9 years old. I don't really know psychologically when the human being develops an identity. But at this point, I was just so excited to share magic tricks, which is the thing that I loved the most. And I still love it to this day, but I was just so excited to share that kind of thing, on the internet. Yeah.
And then how do you remove the layers of yourself as you continue to grow as a human being?
Yeah, it's it's a constant struggle for me, especially because, I'm making content now that's like in the self-development niche, and there's still an element of like it's a performative thing for me. And it's such a, I think self-development specifically is like such a weird niche to perform in, because you're supposed to be authentic and you're supposed to like help people find their true selves. So how do you do that if you're not being your true self? And I don't, I think my videos work the way they do because they're performative. And I think in a weird way, the performative me is an authentic representation and expression of the things that I want to do. I think ultimately I want to entertain and I want to help people. And if I can do that through performing in a certain way, I can perform true things that I care about and true concepts that I resonate with and true things that I want to align with, and I want to help others align with, or at least realize the value of. So, there's a line that kind of has to be towed. At least I feel that I tow between, how do I make a video that's entertaining, but also like packed with value and it hits you in the chest. You know what I mean? So it's this weird, I feel like I don't want to give myself so much credit, but I feel like I exist in kind of a unique part of, content creation, but then the self-development niche in general.
You do. And you don't need to be humble about it, because you've carved your own way from doing it for so long. And I'm curious, so the video started because of a January 1st challenge, but how did those develop, and how have you become better at creating those videos?
Mm-hmm. Great question. So this whole self-development thing was birthed out of a challenge I gave myself. I grew up doing the magic thing on YouTube, and I transitioned in high school to Instagram. And as part of all these, I still am a part of like the cardistry community, magic community, making myself sound like such a nerd. I guess that's authentic and true to me. But all through high school and college, I was doing cardistry and magic on Instagram, and I got fairly good at it. I grew a big audience. I was sponsored by people. I did brand deals and stuff on a micro level, flew around the world, spoke at events, yada, yada, did the whole thing. And then I figured, at the end of 2020, I think this was, I was like, hey, how can I challenge myself? I've been doing cards my entire life, been making videos my entire life, putting them on the internet. How can I do something new? And it's not like I don't like like there's the deck of cards right here that I'm looking at. Like I'm always touching cards, but I wanted to challenge myself to see if I could really understand an algorithm. And at this time, TikTok was like booming. Like everyone was on TikTok. And I had even had friends that, went from Instagram to TikTok, and I watched them blow up. And I was like, well, I'm a better filmmaker than these guys. Like, how come I can't do this? So I was just like, let me just do this. So, at the time, Gary Vee was also like peaking. He's always peaking, but I was consuming a lot of Gary Vee content. And I was like, you know what? I can probably like spit out some like motivational-esque words, every day. I can do that. So at the end of 2020, it was December of 2020, I said, okay, I'm going to start a new TikTok account. It's going to be called Resolution Reminder. And the goal of this account is to remind people of their New Year's resolutions, because how quickly do you forget a New Year's resolution? If I can make a video every day that's like, hey, get back to the gym, or remember that diet, or remember get off your phone. The first video, I think the first ever video I made, I was like, I know you should be doing something more productive. Get off your phone, blah, blah, blah. And it's just funny how that's like still my content today. Anyway, the whole thing was birthed out of an experiment. Resolution Reminder was purely for me to see if I can like attack TikTok with like good looking video, good looking audio, good looking editing, and just to see if I could go viral, and if I can get 1 million followers, and if I could make money. And that was purely, it was like fully an experiment. I didn't tie any sort of identity or ego to it. Actually, I tied a lot of ego to it, but I wasn't concerned with authenticity, right? I was just purely like, how can I game the system? So end of 2020, I make 14 videos that are just simple one-shot videos, just lit with, good lighting and good sound. Turn to the camera, it's just me going, hey, get off your phone, or hey, remember your New Year's resolution? I just did 14 versions of that. Come January 1st, I upload a video, and I did it every single day, every day. And I was actually just looking this morning, just scrolling back, and within 5 days of posting, I had a viral video. And I remember that feeling of when that video went viral. It was a video of, it was me just being like, here's how to be more confident. And it was just like, I remember like Googling confidence hacks, like before I hit record. And I was like, oh, that one looks okay. And then I hit record, and I was like, I can perform my way through this. So the video within 5 days of doing this TikTok thing, it was viral. And I remember reloading the notifications, and it was just like new follows and thousands of likes per second. And I was like, oh my God, this is absolutely insane. So I suppose I would be lying if I were to say that I didn't get addicted to the feeling of like, okay, how can I go viral again? I like fully not thinking about being authentic or being true. It was fully just like, okay, how can I, like, let me just game the system over and over. So I kept doing this, and I found formats that would work. And obviously the answer to being viral on TikTok and any platform really is retention. So I was just figuring out like, okay, how can I get someone to stay to the end? So I came up with this format, Testing Your Attention, the show that tests and improves your attention span for the better. And it was literally just me talking for minutes about like how bad your attention span is. Or sometimes I would just like not talk. I would just stare at the camera for 3 minutes, and that it would go viral. It was insane.
No way.
So yeah, it all came from a place of like, yeah, I want to figure this out, but like, it was being trumped by how many views I was getting, and I was like so concerned with like, how do I maximize the performance of my videos? It wasn't until about April or June of posting every single day that I realized that like, man, this, like, I'm not having a lot of fun with this. Like it's cool. Like I feel like I know I can how to do it. Like I feel like I accomplished my goal of like figuring out the algorithm. But I also reflected on how many people I was affecting. And, I was going through the comments of these videos that were like, hey, take a breath break, or like, hey, stop scrolling. Like I was going through the comments, and these people were who I'm never going to ever meet. They were like pouring their heart out, being like, hey man, these videos really helped me. This, I was having a tough day. This video made me feel way better. This made me really wake up to how much I use my phone. And I kind of pivoted in that moment. I was like, man, I'm like not thinking at all about these videos, and they're changing people's, again, I don't want to give myself too much credit.
Do it, man. Give yourself credit. Like you can. I give you full permission to give yourself credit.
I was changing people's lives with these videos that I wasn't thinking half a second about. And I was like, man, I feel like I have somewhat of a responsibility now. Like I can't just put out a piece of crap video and have it go viral for all the wrong reasons. Like how can I use the internet as like a tool for good, So it was about, I would say 3 or 4 months into this everyday posting thing when I started to realize this, but also realize how much, not free time I had. Like I was always making videos, and I have my job, and I was like, okay, how can I streamline this? So I started making iPhone vlogs, and it was literally just me throughout my day, like filming whatever. It was me going to work, me making food or whatever, me getting ready for bed. And I would just do a voiceover and be like, okay, so this is what I did today. I woke up and blah, blah, blah. And then at the end I would tie in like something that I could, teach, like, here's how to have more resilience at work, or if you're frustrated, try this. And it would just be me storytelling about my day. And, it's, you could probably wrap it into like a fake deep kind of thing, but it was real lessons that you could derive from the things that I was saying. So that was kind of the moment where I stopped treating TikTok and and like massive content creation as like an experiment, and more of like, okay, how can I really do this in a way that is meaningful for not only other people to watch, but me to make? If I'm going to subject myself through this every single day, how can I get value from it just as a person outside of likes and shares and comments and follows and stuff? How can I really use content creation to enrich my life? And that came in the form of telling stories throughout my day, and then examining where I can reflect on myself, but then also teach a lesson. So it was I would probably say April is when that started happening. So I did that all through the summer and all through, the rest of 2021, and I didn't miss a day, and it was really hard. And, the videos were helping me process how I interact with anxiety and depression, and my experience with that kind of thing. And hopefully, helping other people, find their own path through those same kinds of struggles. And, my account turned into a very, I would say, authentic mental health kind of account. And, ironically, 2021 was like a tough year for the mental health of me, making these videos every day, holding down a full-time job and a full-time girlfriend, like that's, and making video, like there's just so much. So, yeah, it went from experiment to something that I needed to something that was very hard to do, but something I still love to do. The end of 2021 happened, and I completed the goal, and I ended the year with 800,000 followers on TikTok. All the time, the whole year I had started an Instagram that was associated with resolution reminder. Like it was just resolution reminder on Instagram. Didn't think anything of it. Thought Instagram was like the place where creators go to die. Like it wasn't anything, like it was before like Instagram was like, hey, we got to do reels, so that, that Instagram account just kind of sat dormant for the better part of a year and a half. And I maybe posted 1 out of 10 videos that I would make on it, just because I would literally forget. But then, 2022 happens, and I kind of scale back the posting just to kind of reclaim a little bit more of my time. I focus on making better videos less frequently. I think every creator probably goes through a phase like that. And then, yeah, in November of 2022, I uploaded just absentmindedly. It was one of those moments where I remember again, oh yeah, I have an Instagram. I upload just an older video, and I was flying back from somewhere, and I uploaded it right before I flew. And then by the time I landed, the video had like 100,000 views on Instagram. And I was like, whoa, what the heck? All my other my reels on Instagram would average 1,000, 2,000 views, if that. But when I landed, I was like, oh my gosh, I guess this is the thing now. And then every video after that, like just went crazy and like was being pushed. And I was like, well, shoot, I got to go all in on Instagram now. So it was like TikTok 2021 all over again. I was like, okay, we gotta do this every single day thing. And, over 6 months has passed by since that moment. And here I am 800,000 followers later on Instagram now, which is a crazy trajectory. And yeah. And, now I'm still struggling with like the authenticity part. And, yeah, I'm facing a whole new slew of challenges and struggles. And I think that's just the creator's journey. It can't be all, sunshine and rainbows the whole time.
Where are you at on the highs and lows of the whole thing right now? In a previous podcast I listened to, you said it's like I'm losing 500 followers a day, but previously I was gaining 5,000 followers a day, and you were speaking authentically about how it made you feel, even though you didn't even want to feel the way you felt about the whole thing. So where are you at today with that whole thing?
Yeah.
And how's the algorithm treating you, I guess is the question. How is your mind treating the algorithm?
Mm-hmm. Well, the algorithm's still treating me like shit, which is great. But my mind is treating the algorithm way better than it was a month and a half ago.
Good.
So yeah, the long and short of it is, the videos were just cracking, on Instagram. Like every video was being pushed to new people. And, it was easy for me to average 250,000 views. And I think on the high end, I was averaging like 15,000 followers a day for like a month straight at one point in this 6 month, stretch. But then on March 7th, I feel like a conspiracy theorist. On March 7th,
you have the day highlighted.
I know we stormed the Capitol. No, on March 7th, on March 7th, I mean, everything I'm about to say sounds like I'm wearing a tinfoil hat. I'm going to say it anyway. March
Do
7th,
it.
Meta goes down twice in a day, right? Like I can't get on Instagram. I Google search, is Instagram down? And Down Detector is like, it's got that like red spike because like everyone's having problems with Instagram. Go to Twitter and everyone's like, oh, I can't get into my Instagram, whatever. And, that it explained why my video for that day wasn't performing. Like it was just biting the dust. And I was like, all right, well,
Mm-hmm.
it can't be me. Like this video is good. Like I didn't change anything about my process, uploaded at the same time, whatever. Um, so it was Meta. Meta went down twice. And then also on that same day, they made a statement or they did something with their creator incentive program. So they redacted their creator, I think some of their creator incentive programs. Adam Mosseri is on record as saying it's not an ROI positive thing. So they're kind of reconstructing it. It was this day, March 7th, that they like Meta crashed, and then they also said we're not paying creators. So the whole ship was sinking essentially. And it was the first day that I noticed I didn't gain 5,000 followers. Like literally on the low end, it was like 5,000 a day, and I hardly scratched 1,000. I was like, oh, that's fine, whatever. I've had off days, The next day, I hardly scratched 100, and I go, okay, now something's up. And my video wasn't performing. I go to my Social Blade, and it was like the first time in 6 months that I was in the red, and it said negative 1,500, and I was like, great, my career's over, awesome. Like I gotta sell this business right now. It was horrible. It was the worst feeling ever, and it really only got worse because I was desperately trying to figure out the reason behind this, like why is this happening? But I kept coming up dry, and I was crying. It's like I felt like that meme of that guy with the string on the board, and he's like this, and he's like trying to like connect the dots of like all the stuff happening. I was like talking to other creator friends and other people that I met, and they were like, yeah, my content's not performing well either. And I was like, okay, it's not me. And yeah, since then it really hasn't corrected. When this started happening, I had 816,000 followers. And right now I just went down today to 797,000. So it's been a pretty consistent bloodletting of followers. And it's not that people are unfollowing me. It's that I don't have the upside of being pushed. Every day I can look back at my analytics and see that on average, every day, whether or not the algorithm is pushing me or not, I lose about 1,200 to 15, maybe 1,600 followers. That's just natural. It's natural for big accounts because there's spam accounts and Instagram's constantly rotating through, like getting rid of those bot accounts. But I don't have the upside of being pushed to new audiences. So I don't see, in fact, I really feel the effects of that because I'm only seeing the natural fall off. And that really got to me. I mean, in the weeks following the insurrection of Instagram, in the weeks following, I was like really down on myself, and I like seriously, I don't want to say it out loud, but I broke down a couple times, and I was like, what's wrong? I've spent 6 months, which is like not that long of an amount of time, but I guess retroactively it's been my whole life, coming up to these moments. I've spent my whole life learning how to edit and upload these like high quality pieces of content, and then in the last 6 months came up with like this, I call it my bulletproof process for creating 25 pieces of content at a time. Like that was what I was doing, in these 6 months, was I was batch creating content once a month, and I was just cooking, and it was crazy. And it just felt like all of that was just being flushed down the toilet. It was really frustrating. I felt entitled to views and followers, and it felt frustrating that the algorithm wasn't, I mean, it's such a trite thing to get upset about, but it felt frustrating that it wasn't being, pushed to new audiences. So, it's still happening. And I think I've kind of come full circle on those feelings. I'm no longer frustrated. I realize it's completely out of my control. I've taken a little bit of my own medicine and just, I'm focusing on the things that I can control, and what I can control is great content and good storytelling. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm not uploading new videos every single day. I'm still uploading every day. I'm kind of doing a new video and then like a re-upload of like a really favorite video of mine in the last 6 months. And then I'm also expanding, and I'll be posting carousel content. And then I also just want to like post like me photos, like I just want to start using like Instagram as like a person rather than like a creator. But it's hard to do that when you're trying to build a business and when you have a year goal and 5-year goals and 10-year goals for this whole thing. But yeah, I mean, my mindset is completely flipped on like how I view it. And I'm still impacting a lot of people. And I would rather impact 100 people in a way that makes them so dedicated to me and followers of me. I would rather do that with 100 people, with 50 people even, than 100,000 people who watch my videos and kind of forget about me. Like it's just, I would much rather have, a smaller group of very dedicated fans, I guess, if you will.
Speaking of authenticity, have you done a video about the infamous March 7th date and how that impacted you?
I'm actually doing, that's funny you say that. I have a YouTube video. That's another thing I'm trying to put my energy into rather than short form is long form. So I am in the cutting processes of a YouTube video that goes over how I got 800,000 followers and why I regret it. That's like the clicky thumbnail, title or whatever. I don't regret it, obviously, but it's also a work in progress, that title. But yeah, the whole thing goes over basically everything I just told you. My whole story with Instagram, or I'm sorry, with TikTok and then Instagram and then the March 7th date, and then how I'm coming out of that on the other end with a new refreshed mindset and kind of the steps I'm taking to interact with Instagram in a better way. Not just Instagram, but social media, content creation in general. Yeah.
What is the advice you wish you received on March 8th?
That's so funny. What I sort of gave it to myself, not on March 8th, but maybe the following week. I watched the video, Start With Why, the TED Talk by Simon Sinek. And I did not realize how absolutely legendary that guy is, but also that video is. Like, there's a reason it's the most viewed TED Talk. And, I think it was as soon as I watched that video, maybe 2 weeks after March 7th, that I started to kind of come around and come back to the surface and realize that everything's going to be fine. And if I can fully embody Simon Sinek's words and his advice, then I'm going to be ahead of 99% of people, because it's so easy to get into content. But if you don't start with why, then you're doing it for all the wrong reasons, in my opinion. That's how I, interacted with it. That video is the advice that I would give myself. And I bought the book and I'm halfway through it. And I'm highlighting and annotating, but it feels like reading the Bible, like
Wow.
it makes every like negative and frustrated emotion that I've had in the last 6 months and really in my whole time of making content, it makes it feel like it's okay. The reason I get frustrated is because I think deep down I have a strong understanding of why I'm doing it. And the reason I get frustrated is because the way things are going is not aligning with my why. And I want things to align with my why. It's again, like it's an ever growing process, but it's so smart the way he puts things. It's so digestible, and it gives so much clarity and reason to why I'm doing this and why I want to keep doing it. Despite all the hardships that I'm hardships, like it's a, a life or death. This is like the most first world problem, losing followers on a social media platform when I have a beautiful home and food, but it just makes me feel a little bit better. In fact, a lot bit better about, why I was frustrated and why it's okay to feel frustrated. And then, like, most importantly, the steps that I can take to get back to a more level-headed headspace and, create content that's authentic and true to me.
Yeah, man. It's okay to feel frustrated. And just because the problem is something that is a first world problem doesn't make it any less of a problem. And it is okay to acknowledge that. I'm curious, based on what you talked about with Simon Sinek, which his TED Talk is linked below. And I got to actually read the book as well, because I've never read it. But what is your why, and why are you doing everything you're doing?
Yeah, my why, I think I maybe touched on it a little bit at the beginning, but my why is to help people at its core. I want to live a life of service, and I feel the most fulfilled when I can help someone through a struggle or teach someone something when they're looking for that information. And I've done a lot of exploration as to what my why is, and I think it is a pretty fluid thing. But I think at its core, however many whys I have, I think it's all linked back to helping people. And I think it really all comes back to the martial art and how much that is my backbone. I instruct martial arts now. I help my mom teach. I'm at a master rank. And everything I do is like a service to the studio that I teach at, or the art, or the federation of Subakdo that I'm a part of, and that I have been a part of, and that I have a lifetime membership of. It's all very much, it's all teaching, and it's all service. And I've the feeling, I don't think I realized this in the moment, but the feeling that I get watching a student, go from a white belt to their black belt, and like knowing that I have had a huge part of that. And I've instructed them how to do movements, correctly, but also how to integrate the teachings of the martial art in their daily life. Like seeing them accomplish those things and knowing that I had a big part in that is like way better than any amount of vanity metrics that can be pumped into my dopamine processors in my head. You know what I mean? Like that. So yeah, I think my why is to help, and it is to teach people and help them get more in tune with who they are, because that is the leading cause of the most frustration and anxiety and depression, is because you don't understand how to interact with certain emotions in a way that's healthy and conducive. And it's also something that I'm just very passionate about. It's so funny to realize that is my why, because I started this whole self-development thing as an experiment. I was like, I can make, I can spin off motivational quotes, off the top of my head. But now that I've been doing it for 2.5 years, it is very much a big part of my life, because I realized during that time of like trying to figure out how to do the whole TikTok thing, and how to make videos that convert or whatever, I figured out like that is something that's so important to me, communicating and making videos and helping people. Like that's all those videos were doing, despite, whether or not they were authentic or performative or not, like they're at its core, they're helping. So, it's evidenced by looking back. Simon Sinek in his book says to understand, or to help find your why, just look back into your past and find patterns. I've been making content my entire life. Literally, the magic videos that I was making as a kid, those are helping people learn I mean, it's magic, but like it's still helping. It's literally teaching, So I think it's fair to say that my why has a lot to do, if not everything to do, with teaching.
You cut off there for a second.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's not your fault. You were saying about it's literally teaching, and well, I think what's so fascinating is to think about your life today and what you're doing today as a building block for something tomorrow that we can't possibly imagine or know.
Yeah.
And when you realize that the things you've done in the past are helping you become the person you are today, you could also say the person I am today is helping me become the person I want to be in the future. And I don't even know what that person is going to be doing. Yeah. Hopefully it is something that fits that through line in some beautiful way. But yeah, man, it's really cool to hear your journey and hear how it all has aligned, and it makes sense looking backwards. What would you say to somebody who's in that phase of not knowing or not understanding where they are or where they're going? They don't have a definite aim, and they are feeling kind of upset about that. What would you tell that person?
Yeah, that's a feeling I feel like once a week, to be honest. So, it's so easy to give advice when you're standing on the top of what you would consider successful, or a place where like you've wanted to be. For example, I've wanted to have an audience that I can help for the longest time. And now that I'm here, I feel like I can help others that are trying to do that kind of thing. But when you're in the moment of being upset or frustrated, it's so hard, at least for me, it's so hard to receive that kind of thing, because it's hard for, when I'm in those moments of frustration or sadness or whatever, it's so hard for me to accept and to understand that others can understand what I'm going through. But if I were to give advice on that kind of thing, or if someone is asking, hey, how do I find direction, or how do I find out more about myself? The easy answer and the simple answer is to just try stuff. I'm a huge proponent of that, and I've always given that advice. You don't know what you don't know, so just allow yourself to try something new, and to get out of your own way, and to allow yourself to try something with no expectations. Again, that's such an easy thing to say, and I sometimes am hypocritical, and I don't let myself do those kinds of things when I'm feeling like that. But if you're truly looking for a way to understand more about yourself than just try new things, but also spend time with yourself. I grew up an only child, and I don't think I was like aware of it at the time. But last year I made it a point to spend time by myself. I spent a whole weekend. My girlfriend Lexi was out of town. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to take this weekend to like hang out with me. Like I was literally trying to like hang out with myself, and it was really uncomfortable because I was so tempted to like hit up a friend or go out to a bar and like be around people. But I really wanted to challenge myself to just like get to know myself, because I feel like I do, but do I actually? Like how often do I actually spend time with myself? And I think that's true for most people, is like how often do you spend time with only you and only your thoughts? So I spent a lot of time journaling. I took myself on a hike, took myself out to dinner or whatever. And it was very enlightening, because I found out things that I like and that I don't like, and ways that I even interact and talk to myself, like in my head. Like it was a very enlightening thing. So I suppose the answer to your question would be, if you're looking for direction, surrender to a process and allow yourself to try and fail at something new and succeed at something new, but also get comfortable with spending time with yourself, because that's all you have at the end of the day.
Yeah, I love that advice. And I
Mm.
would add to it that the question becomes, how can you make that a daily practice?
Mm-hmm.
Because you felt great because you ran for 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
And that might have been a similarity to that might be like you running a marathon
Mm-hmm.
or a half marathon for 2 days straight.
Right.
And you're like, wow, I feel really good from running.
Mm-hmm.
But 3 weeks from now, you're going to have different thoughts and different ideas. And it's like, if you spent 20 minutes with yourself every day,
Mm-hmm.
that could be more impactful than just 2 days alone. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not to discount the 2 days alone. That's incredible. And a lot of people don't take that step. But the next step to me is like putting it in every day in
Mm-hmm.
some sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
What do you think that would look like for you?
Yeah, it would be spending more time alone. My plate is so full with content creation, and then I got a real job. Again, full-time girlfriend. I say that in jest. We're partners, like that's the thing.
Yeah.
But I really don't get a whole lot of time to myself. And, growing up as an only child, that was all I had. I had friends and stuff, but I remember vividly, just spending time in my room, experimenting with music making, or a lot of it was video, or like learning things from YouTube. Like I feel like I spent a lot of I don't want to say mindless, because it sounds bad, but like it wasn't reflective. Like it was all with stimulation. It was all learning. It was all things that I wanted to be doing. So it's fine. But, I would want to put into practice more like some like phone free, stimulation free time with myself. Like I think that's so key. I feel like I've got a pretty good grasp on who I am now, just because I spend so much time filming and editing and like literally staring at myself in the eyes as I'm editing, but that is the performative version of me. And it's nice to see that I can perform and I can flip that switch and teach something in a really engaging way. But who is Sean, and who is he when the cameras turn off, and who is he when the mic is put away? Like what does that look like? And I feel like I get glimpses of that every so often, every time I do a journaling session and sit down and just do a brain dump. But like it's those glimpses that are the most revealing of like why I am the way I am, and how I'm going to be when I get older.
What do those glimpses say? Yeah,
they say that I'm constantly looking for this. This is like a crazy thing to think about, but it's I'm a person that always looks for a solution. I think most people are. But I'm also a person that is like very stuck in my ways. Like I'm once I find something that works, I'm hard pressed to deviate from that path. And I think honestly, that's just how I think most people are, in a sense. But I just feel like, I don't allow myself to surrender to things, to processes, to being wrong and to failing. Like everyone likes being right and being correct, but I don't place enough value on, what I can learn from being wrong about something. I can when I need to make a video about it, but like in practice and in practicality, it's something that's very hard for me to do. And that it's evidenced by the March 7th date. Like that's something that I failed at technically, like by metrics, but that's also something that I had no control over. And it was hard for me to accept that kind of thing. So, whenever I have one of those moments that's like revealing, it's like really peeling back the layers of Sean. And once I like take a peek at the very core of me, it's this really strange and uncomfortable kind of, but also really, really calm, peek into my childhood as to like who I was and who I developed into through making content and through making videos on a daily basis and being creative all the time as an 8-year-old. Like there's still very much that version of me that's present in everything I do. And sometimes it's just masked by adulthood and by growing up and by the things that I think that I know. But once the smoke clears, like it's still just 8-year-old me, which is insane to say. And I think that's very important.
Why do you think that being wrong is so hurtful to you?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with my upbringing. No one likes to be wrong necessarily. Wrong is culturally like not good, but there's obviously an unlimited amount of knowledge in being wrong. It's all about what you can learn from a situation. But I think the reason why it affects me so much is because of the martial art and because of the disciplined approach I take to everything. You don't get necessarily reprimanded for doing something wrong, but in a martial system, if you deviate from any sort of path, then there is consequences. And I'm not that my mom is like the best instructor ever, but when she steps on the mat and she's my instructor, then she's no longer my mom, right? So I think that's another unique kind of thing that I had to deal with growing up was like, how do I like have a mom, but also a martial arts instructor? Because sometimes the line would get blurred, just in my own head, or maybe she would say something at home that I'm like, well, that's like, you just be my mom here, don't be an instructor, and whether that's on her or it's on me, it doesn't matter. But I really do think the martial art had a profound effect, in terms of like giving me this amazing backbone of discipline, but also like receiving advice and instruction and interacting with failure or non-comprehension in a way that, like, I don't know, sometimes isn't as healthy, or it just makes me more uncomfortable than it should. I think I'm more apt to, when I fail at something or when I realize that I'm wrong, I'm more apt to look at the negative side of it rather than what can I learn from it. I think I always come around to the what can I learn from it phase, but immediately I'm beating myself up is extreme, but like in some sense of the word, that's what I'm doing, and that's why being wrong and failing at things is so hurtful, I guess, to me.
What purpose does that serve, you beating yourself up in that moment, that initial moment?
Yeah. Well, and it's a knee-jerk reaction because when I realize that I'm not good at something, or that I failed at something, or that I'm wrong, I want to figure out how I can be better immediately. And just that recognition of not being better is that I guess reflex, I suppose, of like, oh man, how can I use this moment to build habits? And I guess the way that I respond to being wrong is to sit in that wrongness and to feel bad about it, so that I can realize that I don't ever want to feel like this again in this situation with this particular topic. And I think, it just all relates back to the martial arts system, and not that like I feel like I'm painting it in like a wrong picture, but it's just, in any disciplined system, in any martial system, whether it's the army or Subakdo martial arts, there's a huge emphasis on standardization and being correct. And, standardization is, especially in the martial art that I do, it's very fluid and it changes all the time just because it's a living art. And that's one of the best parts about it. But it is frustrating, and it is annoying almost to like get something wrong. And, that translates into things that I do outside of the martial art, and it just bleeds into my personal life, I guess.
But there is a way to supersede that. And it is interesting because I watched a video today from Jocko Willink that you might be familiar with. It's just good. It's called, and I'll link it down below. And the point of the video is basically like someone brings him something that is wrong, or that's a major crisis or problem, and Jocko responds to it by saying good. And that means that, he's went through a martial system himself and has superseded that to the point where something goes wrong or he does something wrong and he gets excited about it because it's an opportunity to improve. And the question becomes, how do you bridge that gap between the time that you feel like you did something wrong and when you actually resolve it? You said it took you a week for this Instagram account when it started going downhill. The question becomes, how do you get that to a day or an hour or a minute or a second, or where you do something wrong and you're better for it in that moment and you're excited to tackle the problem? That's the question for you. And I'd be curious to hear what thoughts you have on how exactly to do that.
Yeah, that's actually, I would love to see that video. Sounds really cool. Yeah, I feel like it's sort of a little bit of my secret sauce to like be like kind of down in the dumps for at least a day about something, it's a non-physical reminder to go back to the drawing board constantly. And it's cool to like allow myself to, I mean, not cool, but like it allows myself to like, analyze where I need to analyze. And I do end up being better because of it. And, for example, this Instagram situation, like, maybe I was down for a little bit too long, but it allowed me to discover Simon Sinek and to digest, all of his thoughts and his ideas and really apply it in a applicable and in a way that like really resonates with me. So it took that it's realistically like 3 weeks of like being really sad all the time, every time I hit upload, to like now come out with like a completely refreshed state of mind of like how I interact with content. And it's just been so inspiring the last few weeks now, couple weeks of, reading his book, watching his video again, writing about it, journaling about it, and then applying those concepts to content and to realize that like, I don't have to be all in on Instagram. And in fact, I shouldn't be. And I'm now focused on building. The thing that's been bouncing around in my head is like build something real. Like Instagram could shit the bed tomorrow. It's probably not going to, but it could, I don't want to have all my beans in Instagram's basket because that's the last thing I want to do. So I want to build something tangible and real and something that actually affects people's lives rather than videos that you scroll past on an app. That should be top of funnel. I think it's very important, of course. Social outreach and brand awareness is like that all exists on the phone. But if I can integrate someone into a world that I've built, that is the realest thing. And that's now what I'm focused on. Like now the question is like, how do I make time for that with a job and all of this stuff? Or like, that's literally the fire under my ass right now. Is like, how do I build something real?
I love that, man. That sounds like the right approach and the right idea. I'm curious, you've spent so much time as a performer and so much time giving a presentation and being charismatic on camera. What comes to mind if you have somebody who's listening to this and is in their first year of creating online or being in front of a camera? What tips can you give them to be more charismatic?
To be more charismatic? Yeah. I think, I think the reason my videos have done well, and I think the reason I have the bulletproof process that I do is that I approach it in a very, very planned out manner. Like I can at this point, because I've had so much practice, I can turn on the camera and spin out something. Like I can just tell a story in an engaging way because I've been doing it for years and years now. But if you're in your first year of making content and it's something that you really want to do and something you're excited about, then allow yourself to be excited on camera. Get comfortable with speaking first, like not being on camera. I'm just saying speaking. I used to do a thing in high school where I would just say lines that I wanted to say in a YouTube video or in a magic video or even in a magic performance. I would just stare at myself in a mirror and just say it. And I would watch myself and how my hands move and how my face moves. Like it's all very important to know. I think I do it without thinking now, but if I were to give advice to someone who is starting out, then it's to approach every video with as much planning as not as you can, but as you're comfortable with. Like videos now, I can outline a video in 5 bullet points and have something to talk about. But for someone starting, maybe you need to type out full paragraphs. Whatever it is, if you can approach something with a lot of planning and confidence, then you can allow yourself to be you on camera because you don't have to worry about what you're going to say. All you have to worry about is saying it correctly. The YouTube video I recorded that we were talking about earlier, I thought it was going to take 10 minutes to record. It took me 1 full hour because I was trying to get these lines right. But I had a script and I was saying it line for line, give or take. And I feel like it would have taken double that amount of time if I didn't approach it with the right amount of preparation. So, everyone says practice makes perfect, but preparation is what makes perfect. And I think the more you can be prepared to film a video, or the more you can be prepared for really anything, but in this case, video creation, the more you can allow yourself to focus on the performance nature, if that's what you're going for on video. If you're thinking about the next line, or how you're going to tie this line into the conclusion, or what's the hook, if you don't have that all planned out beforehand, your mind's going to be too foggy, and it's not going to allow yourself to perform at your highest caliber, I would say.
And then forget somebody who's posting their content online. How should someone think about being more charismatic in general? Like taking that online persona to the real world, which I'm sure you have to do when you're doing magic.
Yeah, that's a huge part. In fact, I think I attribute a lot of my charisma to magic performance, because you have to be a guy that is fun to be around and makes people laugh and stuff, and you have to be literally on your toes about like how you, like, what's the joke you can make, or how you can make people smile. That's what magic is. So yeah, I mean, without being a video creator, you're like, how do you be more charismatic? I've always paid attention to people's body language, especially with magic. You don't want to approach someone who's standing like this, right? This obviously means don't even look at me. But if you can learn to read body language and then also implement body language that gives off, if you can literally start communicating with your body, like that's an immediate way to not only be more charismatic, but to cue other people in who you're talking to that you are a charismatic person. I've been doing it this whole time, but talking with my hands and allowing yourself to, I feel like I have this like open, nature to just what I do. And this is how I just talk naturally, with people that I'm comfortable with. But, even when I'm uncomfortable and I'm in a situation, I find myself standing like this or with my hands in my pocket, I'll be actually mindful about like taking my hands out of my pocket and just sitting in that uncomfortability of being open and vulnerable like this. And I think it just comes naturally now that I've, been doing it for my whole life. But if you're trying to be more charismatic, talk with your body. I'm just not saying like start breakdancing in a conversation, but like just allow yourself to use your hands and be open a little bit more. Smiling is a huge thing. If you just smile like by yourself in a room, you're going to trick your own brain into being like, oh, I guess he's happy. So just smile as you're talking. And a lot of it is like just kind of psychological tricks that you can use to trick your own body, but smiling and just allowing yourself to be open. I'm physically open, is probably the biggest tip I can give to someone.
I love that. That makes a lot of sense. A lot of your work is focused on making sure that we use our phones to create the best reality on the internet for ourselves, but not let it be used as a tool where we're being used by it. What have you found to be the best ways to make sure we're using the internet and the powers of it, but not getting used by it?
Yeah, that's an ever changing struggle for me. I feel like I'm a walking paradox because or I guess contradiction, just because I make, those are the kinds of videos I make, but my screen time is like through the roof, which is something I'm a little disappointed in myself for, but it is the name of the game as a content creator. And for me, in order to use your phone more as a tool, then you have to realize the power that it holds, right? You've got this little metal box that gives you access to unlimited information, constant companionship. It's all in your pocket. It's all right there. And honestly, the biggest thing for me is becoming a content creator. And I'm not saying everyone has to become a content creator, but I think the simple act of recognition of the power that this thing has, like, I think it's so hard for younger people, as if I'm old, but like, younger people to realize how crazy this thing is. Like, this is literally something from the future, like back up 15 years, maybe not even that. And like having a computer in your pocket was unheard of. So I don't know. I try to remind myself of that. I feel imbued with the responsibility of, I've described it as like evangelizing, getting off your phone, but the more awareness you can bring to it, the better. And that's just kind of what I try to do with my videos. And I don't know. It's again, interesting. It's an interesting question for me, just because like I'm on my phone all the time and I'm constantly looking at what other people are posting and like how I can make my videos better. But at the same time, I'm preaching like, get off your phone. It's not good for you. Yeah, I think the answer to that question is just like this thing we hold so dearly that we just scroll through absentmindedly before we go to sleep is such a powerful tool and will continue to be the most powerful tool we've ever come up with.
Yeah, until the next thing. You
Yeah,
know,
right.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy what they got cooking up in the labs over here.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Um, but I like to end these podcasts with challenges for the audience.
Cool.
So I'm curious if you have a challenge for someone listening based on everything we talked about
Hmm.
so that they can take the information and hopefully do something with it in the next part of their day. Does
Yeah.
a challenge come to mind?
Yeah, couple. It's something I need to do more, but I encourage everyone to buy a journal or pick up that journal that you bought so long ago thinking you were going to journal and then forgot about. Like I need to get better at it myself. I still use my journal every day for, keeping track of to-dos and whatever else. But really, I think a journal is at its best when it can be a companion that is the best listener, allowing yourself to sit down and without your phone and with no distractions, just unload every single thought you have. I think there's such a reluctance of people to get into journaling because they want to keep up, consistency, or they want to make it look nice, or they feel like, the bullet journal system is too hard to learn. But like really what a journal should be is just a place for thoughts. And if you can sit down every single day for 7 days and set a timer for 10 minutes and just allow yourself to just free write. Like it's just for you. You're not sharing it with anybody. That's another thing that stops people is like, they think someone's going to read it. They're only going to read it if you let them. So just keep, it's for yourself, So just journal every day for a week and try to tell me that you don't feel a little bit more in tune with who you are. I think it reveals a lot, not only your writing style, but also just like the thoughts that you choose to write down. It's crazy. I've been journaling on and off for like 10 years. I have journals from high school that were like little mini journals that I would write in before I would go to sleep. And looking back at them now, I literally can't read them, not only because of the handwriting, but because the content is just like so cringeworthy. But it's like a physical record of me processing growing up. And I think that's such an important thing to not only practice every day, but also to have and to look back. Like in 20 years, I can't wait to look back at this journal and be like, what an idiot this kid was, But I would say journal every day and then try to find a moment in your day, every day, to take 50 breaths. I did this thing at the beginning of the year, but counting your breaths and meditating is what I'm saying. But, by taking 50 breaths, that's 1 inhale, 2 exhale, 3 inhale. So that counting each individual breath, just if you do that 50 times, you'll physically feel better, but also mentally, you'll just feel much more clear. And if you do that every day for a week, you'll probably be a different person by the end of it. So journaling and meditation, I would say.
Oh, dude, I love it so much. If I could retweet a
Mhm.
challenge, I would retweet because those are great and
Yeah.
help me so much. So thank you so much for your time, man. Where can we send people to connect with you and a
Mhm.
new podcast coming soon?
Yes.
Where's it out?
Yeah. Podcast isn't out at the time of recording this, but it will be very soon, I hope. You can find me and contact me on Instagram. It's just Sean Oulashin, one word, Sean, and then my last name is Oulashin. I'm on there 24/7 constantly because I'm a walking contradiction. Yeah.
Let's throw this man a follow so that he can get his Instagram numbers up and
Yeah.
hopefully be smiling a little bit more mentally.
Yeah, please.
Dude, thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate what you're putting out into the world. And you really are a gem of a person and a gem of a creator. So please don't stop and please keep that mind as safe of a place as possible over the coming weeks, months, and decades.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you having me, and thanks for asking such good questions.